Broadcasting from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, it's time for Dental Law Radio. Dental Law Radio is brought to you by Oberman Law Firm, a leading dental-centric law firm serving dental clients on a local, regional, and national basis. Now, here's your host, Stuart Oberman.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Dental Law Radio. Our previous segments have dealt specifically with COVID-19. We're going to conclude this series with what happens regarding interviews. So if we digress a little bit, on our first segments, we went through complex governmental matters, employee resistance, mandates. Now, what we're seeing is that in this job market, we're seeing a lot of turnover in our dental practices and actually across the board on our non-dental clients. So we're getting a lot of questions. Again, this particular topic, employer job interviews, COVID-19 questions, that's a whole nother day. That's a whole nother day that we could speak about for another 8 hours. But one thing that we want to do, we just want to touch on some pros and cons, some yes and no's, things you can and can't do on interviews, because I will tell you, in today's world, if you think that the potential employees are not recording your conversations at job interviews, you have another thing coming, I will assure you. And also, nowadays we're doing Zoom interviews and we're hiring people without even, shaking their hands and kissing the babies. So then what do? Now you're on Zoom and you don't even know you're being recorded on Zoom. So what happens is that now someone who's not experienced in your office, it could be a wide variety of positions that do your quote hiring and firing, that are not HR trained, that either have been at your, the old front desk, or, now we've got the hygienist who's now, interviewing, and, now we got the office manager who used to answer the phones 3 weeks ago. Now they're doing the interviews. So you've just opened up the door to huge potential problems if you do not, and I repeat, if you do not understand what you can and cannot do. So very, very succinctly, so we get these questions. Can I require vaccinations? And tell people who I'm hiring, you are now required to get a vaccination the first day. The answer is yes. Now, that guidance is constantly changing. Last year when we started all this, COVID-19, the overall prevailing view was no, because there was too much risk. Now we're seeing mandates on top of mandates on top of mandates for employers. So if you have procedures in place, if you have dotted all of your I's and crossed your T's regarding compliance with the American with Disabilities Act, EEOC, the CDC, OSHA, EEO, and the FDA, then yes, there's probably a pretty good likelihood that you will be able to require that new hires be vaccinated. But you can't do it arbitrarily. Now, I will say this, that guidance from the ADA and the EEOC in many cases is unsettled. So the guidance today is yes, we can mandate, but we have to have very, very stringent federal law, state law, local law compliance on these policies. So then what happens is that, let's say you mandate that your hire does not want to get a vaccination. So now you're in a couple areas. You're in the ADA, American with Disabilities Act, EEOC, because you love this new employee or this employee to be. So you have to indicate that you've got an accommodation medically and disability and religiously for that person because they do not and cannot get vaccinated for a wide variety of reasons. Now, I will tell you the sloppiest thing our dental practices do is try to maintain HR. HR is a nightmare for our dental practices and honestly our employer clients in general. So one thing you cannot do is that you cannot intermingle the vaccination exemptions, protocols, or compliance into the employer's regular personnel file. These have to be treated as separate, confidential medical records. Now, we've had cases where the employers have literally given over the employee files to them to manage. That is literally like putting the fox in the hen house. You cannot give your employees their own personnel files to manage because I will guarantee you if that employee is fired, leaves, discharged, that record is gone. And then you're going to ask me for advice. And I'm going to say, where's your file? And you're going to say, I don't have it. And I'm going to say, where's it at? And then you're going to say the employee had it. I'm going to say, great, at least you had one, but now we're in a whole different ballgame. So on the mandates, the EEOC provides guidance that employers may lawfully have vaccination policies, even for those that are just starting. Now, the key is there's a lot of variance there. That's a lot of governmental guidance agency-wise. So you have to constantly keep track of what's going on with all these agencies. Again, I know I keep saying it. OSHA, CDC, EEOC, EEO, FDA. All those will change guidance in a heartbeat. And you've got to keep track of that, and you have to adjust your written policies. And notice I said written policies either way. You've got to stay on top of this. And honestly, you can't leave it to one person in your office, HR, to cover this. You can't leave it to payroll. Half the time you're lucky if you get your payroll correct from the payroll companies. Nevertheless, handle the HR on a complicated matter like this. So again, I will stress, stay on top of this. Stay on top of this. Seek counsel if you have any questions, concerns whatsoever. If you want to reach out to us, please feel free to email me directly at stuart@obermanlaw.com. We try to provide as much guidance as we can. You could get added to our newsletter. We try to put out publications as much as possible, at least a couple of times a month on these kind of issues, related vaccination issues. We'll be doing a lot of industry webinars and some live events. So the resources are out there, use them because this is an extremely difficult trap for the unwary. So that is really going to conclude our multi-part segment on COVID-19, really for now, until the government issues additional guidance. Then we're going to have to, obviously modify some things. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. It has been a pleasure. If you have any questions, concerns, please feel free to reach out to us and have a great day. And we look forward to having you join us on subsequent Dental Law Radio podcasts. Have a great day.